Bienvenidos, Fright fans. Welcome to the horror show. I'm Jaime Fuego.
And I'm Cecil Laird.
And we're coming at you with more of our comic book coverage, man. Something contemporary and something classic. The second Aliens book is what I have. And what do you got today, man?
Today I'm going to be reviewing Blood and Dust, which is a independent comic book, but I'll get into that later. First, let's get into Aliens, Fuego.
Indeed.
What book is this in the Aliens sequence?
So this is book 2, and it has seen various covers because this was just like book 1 that you saw us previously cover. It was edited and adapted a little bit once the third Alien film came out. So I ended up changing Newt and Hicks into Wilkes, and I'm even trying to remember. Billy, okay, because I haven't even read those versions of the books. I have stuck to the original incarnation. And so in book 2, we are following the story of Hicks and Newt and the android lover of Newt, which
Butler.
there is only half of at this point, named Butler. And so it picks up right where that first book left off, where Earth has been totally overrun by aliens, and they're pretty much considering it a lost cause. And so Hicks and Newt are, on this ship, which they're not technically flying. It's basically being controlled and going to a larger ship where apparently a crazy general named Spears has been breeding. He has tons of aliens there. He's got a queen. He is essentially hoping to train them. Once again, the whole trope of they're going to use them as weapons that I know you have found kind of beat to death at this point. Maybe others have too. One of the best things about this book for me, though, is the artwork by Denis Bouvet. I'm probably butchering his name, unfortunately, and it really brings the script by Mark Verheiden that's not quite as deep as the previous one. It really brings it to vibrant life. It's colorful, whereas the first book was not originally in color. It was black and white, just like many of those original Dark Horse Aliens stories and stuff. So this one, it's almost painted looking in its vibrance. It's very brutal. The aliens look a lot scarier to me, and I think just it's less cartoony, even if the script may be a little more cartoony and by the books. Well, you read this as well, Cecil. What'd you think of it?
I did, and I actually agree. The artwork is amazing. The story is very thin.
Yeah.
Now, specific points I have here is that the story moved at a very brisk pace, but at the risk of actual story. There's no character development,
Nothing
or very
really
little
happens.
of it. And then there's no location set up, so it just jumps around without telling you where it's going, which is something that comics just do automatically nowadays. I don't know if they just skipped over it.
They're only
back
on
in
like
the day.
two spaceships in this whole thing.
But nonetheless, I was getting confused, and I don't know. The artwork was pretty, but it wasn't an enjoyable story, in my opinion. However, the artwork is very reminiscent of an artist that's very popular over in Marvel by the name of Ariel Olivetti. Currently, he's doing Venom Space Knight, and he also did...
More stuff in space, huh?
Yes. He also did a Cable series not too long ago where it was basically Cable watching over the Messiah mutant when mutants had gone extinct for a little while there.
Interesting.
So Little Hope. He was basically, it was Lone Wolf and Cub starring Cable and a little girl on alien planets.
Intriguing.
So this artist in the Aliens book is very reminiscent of Olivetti's work. And that's an awesome comparison for me. Like, I enjoy Olivetti's work so much that I really enjoyed this as a result, despite the thin story.
Yeah, there's some parts where aliens are getting hit by flamethrowers, and just the vibrance of the flame, and the alien queen is drawn so beautifully and, just frighteningly. And so, I don't know. I also thought, like, the half of Butler you see with, like, the entrails and stuff coming out all milky and nasty looked so realistic and very cool. And, for that sheer fact, I liked this book better as a kid. And that was because it was all about the visuals, man, but...
that was your favorite, I believe, going into all this, before we started all this coverage, when Fuego said he wanted to do it, and I hadn't committed yet to reading all of it. Now that I have, I read through it, and I'm like, I'm not sure why you like 2 better than 1, but...
it looked so cool, man. I almost feel like, whereas they were world building pretty much in that first book, like Verheiden expanded upon the universe that Ridley Scott created in that original film, and that Cameron kind of tinkered with a little bit, but this felt more so like playing in the same sandbox as opposed to, like, first jumping in there. So I don't know, best comparison I could make. But you're at the very tail end of the tale, about to presumably go back to Earth, and then a certain character finally shows up that you've been wondering the whole 2 books, where the hell is Ripley? I guess that's a spoiler. She does finally pop up, and you'll eventually see a book 3 review from us where we can delve into the good and bad of her character's return.
Overall, the Aliens book 2 was just kind of okay in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's worth checking out for the artwork, but don't expect a super great story.
Yeah, you basically got corrupt military, more worship of the aliens, and trying to militarize them, and that's pretty much it.
And a dumb general character that we've seen done so many times.
To pieces, down to like the big stogie cigar in his mouth.
Down to his own misguided actions that get him into trouble and stuff, of course.
You gotta break some eggs to make an omelet, man.
Yes, but anyway,
Alien eggs.
I think that's enough for Aliens Book 2. Let's go ahead and move into Blood and Dust, The Life and Undeath of Judd Glennie, which is a very interesting book because of a couple of reasons for us. First off, we met the creator at Phoenix Comic-Con 2015, and that is the writer Michael R. Martin. It was interesting. We actually got 2 issues. The art was different in both issues.
Different artist. One is colored, one is not.
One is black and white, exactly. So it was sort of an interesting experiment for us to read. I'm not sure if there's more at this point or not. We're going to check in with him, hopefully, if he comes back at Phoenix Comic-Con 2016. But fortunately for us, it was extremely worthwhile to read. Both of these issues, I think, were better than the entirety of the second Aliens book. I mean,
I take resent to that, but nonetheless.
No. The story was
at least
way
as far
better.
as being original and cool, this had a little bit of a couple different genres jumping together, right?
It sort of starts off almost like a little Gran Torino-ish, where there's an old man that sort of keeps to himself, and he's bothered by kids sometimes, but you find out very quickly in the first issue that it's not a usual circumstance. For instance, when one of the kids is bothering him, he's had enough, and he picks the kid up by the neck.
It's his grandkid.
It's his grandkid. That's right. That's right. And he basically holds him up against the wall and sticks a knife through his shoulder and sticks him to the wall.
As I was sitting there reading that, I was like, what is going on here, man?
Exactly. And really, the title should have tipped me off, The Life and Undeath of Judd Glennie, but I wasn't thinking about it. But it turns out that he is a vampire that's been around since the 1800s, and he has just been trying to sort of go under the radar and keep to himself for years and years. Unfortunately, he lives next to a swamp where there tends to be a lot of crazy supernatural-ish activity.
People disappearing.
He's been around so long that he was unfortunately taking the blame there for a little while, which leads into issue 2, where we find out in flashback that he actually has been around so long that he had to sort of exonerate himself to the townspeople. When one of their kids disappeared, he ventured into the swamp and retrieved the kid.
It was actually the Reverend's daughter, and so what better person to convince that you're an okay guy than to save the pastor's kid, right?
Basically, the pastor tells the townspeople to just leave him be, and that's how it's been for years. Unfortunately, now another kid has disappeared. Glennie is forced to venture back into the swamp in order to maintain his status quo. It's only 2 issues that we've gotten so far. Again, Fuego and I both really enjoyed it. Specifically, what I enjoyed about it was the story and the unexpectedness, part of which we talked about earlier. The artwork was super interesting in both issues, I think.
Yeah, very different, but very good in both.
Right, exactly. And that in itself sort of made it feel almost anthology-like, but following, one main story. Right, so we'll do the anthology artist aspect, and that was sort of a success. Whether the writer is intending to do different artists for each issue, I don't know.
I'm curious.
That
about
would be
that
a
myself.
super interesting experiment, if so.
Yeah, a different artist for every issue.
Right,
as the story progresses. That could be cool because there was strong points to both of the artistic approaches. Like I got to say though, in the second one, when you saw the swamp in all of its glory with the coloration and everything, it was like borderline Swamp Thing-esque. And he ends up stuck in the swamp himself at the end, and the kids are going to go after him with the father of somebody who he saved. So it's kind of interesting about how at the end of this second issue, it leaves you on a cliffhanger. He is in some peril, and you don't know where it's going to go from there. So I hope there's a third issue for that sheer fact.
Me too, for sure. So I think that pretty much covers it without spoiling too much of the independent book.
Yeah.
Definitely seek it out, you guys. Again, it was written by Michael R. Martin, and it's called Blood and Dust, The Life and Undeath of Judd Glennie. So if you Google that, I'm sure you'll be able to find it on Facebook or something. Get in contact with him, see how you can get yourselves a copy, because it's definitely worth your time. And we will be back to talk about more issues if we can get our hands on coming up here at Phoenix Comic Con 2016.
So
I think that pretty much covers it, Fuego. Any last words here?
You know, I was so very impressed with this other book, and just, I love vampires, and I love where you see just their tales getting generational, and I feel like this character, he intrigued me enough where there are many tales that could be told, both, you know, in the current state we saw him and in lots of others. So as much as I love my beloved alien, you know, working in pre-existing waters, this really impressed me. So
awesome. All right. So thanks very much for watching, you guys. I've been Cecil Laird.
Restes, I've been Jaime and Fuego.
And until next time, remember,
stay scared.